Hi, I'm Rochelle and I'm a Ravenclaw, and today I'm here to bring you my July wrap-up. I read a total of 10 books in the month of July, totaling about 4,600 pages. So July was a very slow month for me personally with my reading. I didn't read all that much. I wasn't really motivated to read a lot. I did go through like a mini slump, I guess you could call it. There was a period where I was just reading books that I wasn't really interested in, wasn't invested in, wasn't enjoying, so that made things a bit difficult. But we're just going to go ahead and get started so I can tell you about all of the things I did read in the month of July. So the first thing that I read in the month of July is The Winner's Crime by Marie Rutkovsky. I gave this 4 stars. I enjoyed this one not quite as much as the first one. The first one's probably like a 4 to a 4.5 stars, and this one's probably a 3.5 to a 4 stars. So didn't enjoy this one as much as the first one. Of course, this is the second book in a trilogy, so I can't really tell you much about what was going on in this, but I did really enjoy a lot of the character development. I was getting quite frustrated at the whole miscommunication trope where everyone feels the same way but no one's talking about how they feel, so therefore no one understands that everyone's feeling the same way. Frustrating. Still really enjoyable. I read this in 24 hours in maybe 2 sittings. There were lots of cups of tea and much enjoyment. Very addictive, very easy to read, but wasn't the best of the series. The next thing that I read in the month of July was probably my favorite of the month and may have been what sent me spiraling into that mini slump or a book hangover, and that is Daughter of Smoke and Bone by Laini Taylor in this gorgeous shiny edition. Look how cute that is. Like, could you want anything more from a cover? This was one of my audiobooks for the month, and if you have any interest in reading this series but feel like you don't have the time, I highly recommend the audiobook. I gave this 4 stars, but again that's more like a 4.5 stars. The atmosphere and the writing style in this book immediately captured my imagination. I was listening to the audiobook and there were times when I was just like walking around the house looking for something to do so that I could keep listening to my audiobook because I was just enjoying it that much. This is the first book in a trilogy. It follows Karou. Karou is a 17-year-old art student who has been raised by an unconventional family that may or may not be made up of mythological inspired monsters. There are no words to describe how much I enjoyed this book. There was some slight things that I would like to have tweaked. There was a section in this book that I would have liked to be slightly shorter, and other sections of this book I would like to have been slightly more fleshed out. We get a character's backstory in here that I would like to have been just slightly trimmed down. It went for just slightly too long for me, and there was some character development that I wish had been slightly more fleshed out. There could have been more than 1 or 2 things said and done to justify this, and I felt like it was slightly too fast of a leap. But yeah, highly enjoy this one. Very much recommend it to anyone that's interested. And the next thing that I picked up in the month of July is Everneath by Brodie Ashton. I ended up giving this 2 stars. I really wasn't enjoying it. This was sold to me as like a Hades Persephone retelling, and that's not what this is. This is a retelling of another Greek myth, which I would have been fine with if that is what I had known I was getting into. Parts of this felt kind of slapped together, and they weren't really, the two like separate worlds that you get a view of weren't really enmeshed quite as well as I would like. I mean, don't get me wrong, this is a beautiful cover. There was a love triangle in here where you're kind of like, why is there a love triangle here? Because we can all tell like which way this is going, and if it goes the other way, then like how. Would love to get the rest of the series purely for the covers, but I would probably never read them, so. The next thing that I read in the month of July was a pick-me-up from Everneath, and that is Trader's Blade by Sebastian de Castell. I gave this 4 stars. I think I might have been bitten by the hype monster for this one. I was expecting to go into this, laugh out loud, like crying, and like this was funny and amusing and witty, but it wasn't the comedy adventure quite that I was expecting. I did really enjoy this. I am going to pursue the rest of these stories, and you can't really tell when I'm holding it so far away, but the detail on this cover is just bloody gorgeous. This follows a trio of a sect called the Greatcoats, and this has been billed as like a fantasy comedy humor twist on the Three Musketeers. So we follow a trio of the Greatcoats. The Greatcoats are like the king's justice system. There's a kingdom where there are several dukes and they are in charge of ruling their own section. But the king has these greatcoats, and they go out and they judge the peasantry and the nobles all the same according to the king's law. I really enjoyed this. The humor and the friendship in this was really good. I was a little let down by the female representation in this. All of the women in here were kind of just here as a facilitation for the men. I'm hoping that is fixed in the next book, and then I can continue to enjoy and read it. And the next thing that I read in the month of July was probably my least favourite of my reads, and that is White Gold Wielder by Stephen R. Donaldson. This is book 3 of the Second Chronicles of Thomas Covenant. If you watched part 2 of my June wrap-up and watched all the way to the end and watched the 15-minute rant that was there, you'll understand why I do not like this series, why I do not enjoy it. I'm not going to waste my time or my breath. The only reason I finished this series is I had it on audiobook and I could play it at 2 times speed and get it over quickly. The next thing that I picked up in the month of July is Speaker for the Dead by Orson Scott Card. Chronologically, this is the next book in the Ender's Game series. It was published significantly after the rest of the Ender's Game, but I have been told that it's probably best to read these in chronological order rather than publication order. So that's what I've been doing. Now, I have heard a lot of things about how Orson Scott Card is not a fantastic person, and I had already bought these before some of those things had come out. So I'm going to read them, try and separate the art from the man, and hopefully that will work in my favour. I ended up giving this one 3 stars. There was a few chapters in here where I was like, wait, how does this tie in to Ender's Game? Because this is set several millennia after the events of Ender's Game. So I was very confused about how this would fit in with the rest of things going on. It's a really interesting book, concept and theme-wise, but I did not love this one as much as I did Ender's Game. If you are looking for more stuff like Ender's Game, probably not the place you're going to find it, unfortunately. We'll continue on with this series. I am very intrigued to see where Orson Scott Card is taking this, and as I have not been super in love with sci-fi recently, this is pretty easy. So I'm gonna keep going with it and hope that I don't have a lot of issues with him later on. And the next thing that I read in the month of July was Assassin's Quest by Robin Hobb. I gave this 4 stars. This is book 3 in the Farseer trilogy, so I can't really tell you much. The Farseer trilogy is the first section of books that belongs to her overarching Realm of the Elderlings series. This wrapped up the beginning storylines of that. This is like 700 and something pages, and I feel like certain parts of this could have been trimmed down and certain parts could have been elaborated on more. So I got to like 100 pages left and I was like, how is this going to happen? There's so much that needs to be done. There's so much still going on that we need to resolve, and I think for me this wrapped up a little too easily and a little too neatly. All of the threads were easily tied, well, they weren't easily tied up, but they were all tied up, everything worked out. There was a lot of things that had to happen here that were kind of just like, and then the thing that needed to happen happened. So a lot of this was skimmed over and I wasn't as satisfied with this as an ending as I would like to have been. I will very quietly say Night Eyes for life. The next thing that I read in the month of July was Naked in Death by J.D. Robb, which is the pen name for Nora Roberts, I think it is. I gave this 4 stars. This threw me for a loop because I went into it expecting like your 90s/2000s/present day crime thriller. This is actually set in 2052 or something. So yeah, there is a lot of social commentary in here that I really enjoyed. I really enjoyed the mystery aspect of this. There were plenty of plot twists, etc. that I really enjoyed. I will definitely be looking into picking up the next book in this series. There was a few things that happened a little too quickly for my liking. I prefer a slow burn romance in these kind of things, particularly in this situation. I'm being vague because I don't want to spoil things for you if you are at all interested in reading these, but I would have liked the romance to be a little more like push and pull because of the situation. I did really enjoy this one after I got over that hurdle of, oh wait, this is not what I signed up for. I did end up really enjoying this. This was a really quick read. I think I read it 2 or 3 days tops. So yeah, very interested in this. There was a lot of really interesting social commentary that I particularly enjoyed. There's talk about gun control and prostitution, etc., and it was very interesting to see how that was fleshed out in this. And the next thing that I read in the month of July was The Winner's Kiss by Marie Rutowski. I gave this 3 stars. This is the final book in the Winner's trilogy. I assume it's called the Winner's Trilogy. Who knows? A lot of people have said that they really don't like a certain plot line in this involving amnesia or memory loss, and I didn't hate that. That was fine, whatever. But yeah, this just wasn't as captivating for me as the previous 2. So yeah, I was pretty let down by this finale, which is unfortunate because I was really enjoying the series. There was some things in this that I wish had resolved differently, and that is just something that I will have to accept and move on from. Wasn't a huge fan about how this series wrapped up and resolved. There were some things that happened here that everyone I felt forgave a little too quickly, and I wasn't a huge fan of that, so oh well. I did really enjoy parts of how this wrapped up. There was a few things in here that were introduced in this book that I wish had been introduced earlier and had more time to get used to, but what are you gonna do? And then the last book that I read in the month of July was my buddy read with Elliot from Elliot Brooks. I'll leave a link to her channel down below. This is Promise of Blood by Brian McClellan. I'm sure that I have fucked that name up, but that's fine. So we buddy read this together. I ended up giving it 4 stars. There was nothing wrong with this. There was just some things in this I wish we'd had a little bit more explanation for, or that we'd explored further. This is the first book in a trilogy, and it is like a fantastical retelling of the French Revolution, if the French Revolution had magic and if fantasy included guns. The magic system in here was very intriguing. There was a lot of things that I am very, very interested to see how they play out or how they are explained. Yeah, definitely looking forward to getting my hands on the next book. Those were all 10 books that I read in the month of July. I'm so sorry that this video is so late. I've had a really rough time over the last week with not being well, and then my partner getting sick, and then my only opportune days for filming being ruined by nosy neighbours. So backstory guys, I film in my bedroom. The bed is pushed back. I could show you, but I don't want to because it's a mess right now. This is the shelf for my walls. There is a window there and there's a window there. That window opens out onto my neighbour's driveway and front yard. So I tried to film, and my neighbour decided that would be the perfect time to wash their car. I made several attempts at trying to film and just ignoring it and saying that I was sorry for the noise, except every time that I started talking, I could see out of the corner of my eye my neighbour's head pop up, and she would just start watching me. And that was really creepy, so I just gave up. So I'm really sorry that this video is late, but yeah, that was a thing that I had to deal with. If you enjoyed this video, if you enjoy me, please feel free to subscribe and give it a like. I have just hit 100 subscribers, so I'm going to do a giveaway soon. I'm not sure what I'm going to do for that yet, but I'm going to do one, so keep your eyes peeled. That is everything from me. I hope you are having a fantastic reading month in the month of August. If you have read any of the books that I talked about today, please let me know down in the comments below. I would love to chat with you about them. Good, bad, I want to hear it all. Alright guys, I hope you have a magical day. Bye.